Students, this is Professor Abdul Mateen from Anjuman Institute of Information Science and Management, Dharwad. In this session, we will be understanding the various design methodologies and what are the objectives of design methodologies and the various types of design methodologies. The design methodologies in the sense the way how the system can be designed, there are the various methods of designing a system. So, that we will be studying in this chapter or this session. So, first let us begin by understanding what is system design methodologies. So, earlier when the system analysis and design was into the formation of the system designing, the system design was considered as an art where the analyst studies a system, identifies the problem or even an opportunity and gives a solution. The solution were specific based on user needs, that is in the whenever the problem is being given, the analyst simply studies the system and treats it as a new problem and finds out the solution which is specific to that problem only. So, in the past 2 decades more and more problems are becoming generic in the sense, for example, consider your library. So, library whether it is for one institution or n number of institution will be having the same process. So, instead of again studying what is library, how the books issue, return happens, all those process, the system analyst simply takes the previously designed things and start adding new things to the system. So, here once I say that it is a generic solution which have common solution and the analysis and design is now transforming into an engineering discipline. Earlier it was called as an art, now it is called as a engineering discipline. A specific engineering discipline is being formed for the system design. So, in that case various designing methodologies have been formed by the rigorous study of system analysis and design. There are more clearly defined logical methods for developing a system that meets user requirements, which has led to new techniques and methods of system design. So, this has led to the various new techniques of the system design. So, what is this design methodologies in the sense? A design methodology is simply provides the technique and guidelines for the process of designing a system. So, the major objectives of design methodology is to improve productivity of the analyst and the programmer. Now, these design methodologies is the work of the analyst and the programmers by providing a specific already predefined methodology of designing a new solution, and then it also allows to improve documentation. Now, what is documentation? Generally, documentation here refers to when the user finishes or when the user starts using the system, if he faces a minor problems that can be solved or that can be understood by the user by using this documentation, just like manual procedure manuals and all those will get, and or in any software will get a help file that will be easily prepared using these design methodologies. Then design methodologies allow you to cut down on cost, because we have already studied a predefined system and we have a solution for that. That solutions can be reused, it is just like a reusability. So, it cut down the cost of implementation, or not only the cost, it can save time also. Then it improves communication among the various stakeholders. So, here stakeholders may be the users, the analyst, the designer and the programmer, and also it simplifies the design by segmenting. Now, what do you mean by segmenting? Say for example, when you write a C program. So, if the program goes on repeating for n number of lines and it has a repetitive task, simply what we will do, we will modularize or will divide the program into different functions. Each function will be performing a specific task. That will be very easy for the programmer to understand and manage the code. The same way, these design methodologies allow you to segment the various parts of the system, so that the solutions can be easily drawn or formed. So, here when I say the different types of design methodologies, there are 3 different types of methodologies. One is called as the structured design, and the another one is called as the form driven methodology, and the third one is called as the structured walkthrough. So, first one is the structured design. So, what is a structured design? So, structure design uses the data flow based methodology. So, as we have already know what are these tools? These tools are nothing but we have already used tools for structured analysis. So, once the input, output and the description of the functional aspect of the system is being defined, this specifies the input, it identifies the input to the system, output to the system, as well as describes the functional aspect of the system. So, once we define this is called as a system specification. What input is needed to the system, how to generate an output, and what is the process, that is called as system specification. So, once we know the system specification from the feasibility study, we will start drawing the data flow diagram. So, once the data flow diagram is drawn, in parallel the data dictionary will also be formed. The data dictionary contains the data about the data, that is data, what is data element, what is data structure, and what is the whole entire component of the data. Then we will be using the structured English. Structured English means if then else structures, right, like those structures we will be using to prepare a decision tree. Using the data dictionary as well as the structured English, we will be preparing the decision tree. Using the decision tree, we will be doing the structure chart, or we will be designing the structured chart. So, here once the decision tree is formed, using this also we will prepare a decision table which can also be used to modify the data flow diagram or update the data flow diagram. So, once we do this, or once we finish this process, so the structured design is based on the data flow methodology. The design partition or the design partitions a program into small independent modules. As I have told, okay, better we will jump into an example here. You can see there is an example of a word pad, right. So, it is simply a functional decomposition. Decomposition in the sense we are dividing one major module into different sub modules based on functions. Say for example, a word pad or a Microsoft Word. So, Microsoft Word based on functions can be categorized into different functions. Here we can see the file creation is one process or one function, saving a file is one function, editing a file is also a function, printing a file can also be said as a sub function, then formatting can also be said as a sub function of the word pad, and also the various settings we can do it with the words, that is also one functional area. So, we have identified these are the functional areas, sub functional areas of the word pad. So, what we are doing, we are dividing the major task into different sub modules or functional decompositions. We are decomposing the major problem into the functional parts. Now, these functional parts can also be subdivided. So, subdivided in the sense what? Saving can also be divided into save as and save. So, Word document can the saving function can be subdivided into save as well as the save. The same way the formatting function can be subdivided into color, font, tab and paragraph. So, what we are doing is the major problem is divided into sub problems. These sub problems are again divided into the major sub problem. So, what we are doing here by dividing these, when we divide a problem into sub problems in such a way that these sub problems take exactly one input and produces an output that is specific to that area. Now, it will be easy for us to understand the process as well as to trace and debug any problem we are facing in the system. So, this will allow us to identify the problem area and it will allow us to easily understand the problem area and give a solution. So, what is an advantage of this is, so once we find out the modules, we can also group them into the major modules, then those sub modules again can be grouped into a major module. This is what is the functional decomposition or modularization approach is. So, what is structured design? Structured design, so what it does is it divides program into small independent modules. They are arranged in hierarchical structure called top down manner. So, here you can see this is called as a hierarchical structure, wherein word part is at the top, the major function is at the top, then sub functions are here at the next level of the hierarchy. The same way the sub functions of the sub functions are in the third level of the hierarchy. Then once this method also minimizes the complexity and makes the problem manageable. Manageable how? By subdividing into smaller segments called as modules. So, the major module can be subdivided into the smaller modules. Then design is said to be top down if it consists of hierarchical modules with each module having a single entry and exit subroutine. So, what do you mean by that? For each of the subroutine, this is subroutine means again it is a module. So, in Visual Basic also we have seen a subroutine means a procedure or a function. So, the sub module will be taking an input and producing an output. So, it will be easy for us if we divide our program into sub modules or subroutine. So, these design methodologies you can see here, the structure chart uses the three important things. What is that is, the first one is called as a module. The module is represented by a rectangle with a name. It is a contiguous set of segments. So, for example, here WordPad is a module, right. The same way file creation is a module, a sub module of the WordPad. The same way saving is a sub module of the WordPad. So, these are defined using the square block or the rectangle block, and it will be provided with a name. For example, here A is a module, right. So, then next thing is the connection. So, the connection is represented by a vector linking two modules. Now, say for example, there is a connection between A and B as well as there is connection between A and C. These connectors allow us to link those modules together, and it means one module has connected to another module. So, for example, in the above example, module A calls the module B, it is also calling the module C. So, module A is calling the B module by using this connector, as well as module A is calling the module B by or communicating with module C by using this arrow key. The third component of the structured design is coupling. Now, what is this coupling means is, so here you can see this coupling is nothing but it is an arrow with a circular tail. Now, what is coupling? Generally, when two functions are communicating together, they will be passing some information or they will be passing some arguments. These arguments are called as couples. So, here you can see the function A is communicating with function B by passing an argument called as P. The same way the function A is again communicating with function C by passing an argument called as Q. So, this approach is called as the structured design. In this session, we discussed what is structured design, what is the meaning of design methodologies, then what are the goals of design methodologies, and what is the structured design methodology. So, I hope this session was useful for you. Thank you.